Welcome to Untapped, the TCG Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, and I'm here with Will. Hey, Will.
Hello.
So, you might have noticed in a very strange turn of events, due to a very strange circumstance, the full set of the Aftermath was spoiled. So, we pivoted a little here. We definitely want to talk about the Aftermath cards. I know they've been discussed prior through various different channels, a majority of the cards from the set. But even still, I want to give it a thorough look over and see if there isn't anything we can play with as Commander players moving forward. The set itself, it was very small. It's only 50 cards. So we figured that will, with what links we talk about Magic, I feel like that's probably an hour in and of itself. But on top of that, we also had a bunch of spoils for the Lord of the Rings, as well as, I think, some lands uncovered for the Doctor Who Universes Beyond set that will be coming out. Obviously, discussing basics isn't very exciting, but we do want to discuss the Ring and how it tempts you, information that's new to us, and whether or not it's going to be good in Commander. I feel like other formats, this is very good effects, but yeah. And I think without further ado, we could jump into it, but a little bit of housekeeping. Next week, we have a cool lineup of topics that we want to discuss. Specifically, we were going to discuss memes and MTG culture, why certain cards are memed, the history behind that. So that should be fun. Also, we wanted to discuss Dan, which is a new and ever-growing, ever-popular format. I don't know if it's popular necessarily. Will filled me in on what and how to play Dan, and it actually looks kind of interesting, so I could probably get myself involved in that. And then we also want to introduce one new segment to the programming where we discuss art, or at least cards from our favorite artist. I believe Drew Tucker will be the first artist we discuss. But that's all next Saturday. This is this Saturday. And we now know what the Ring does. So we've all seen the text on a handful of cards from the Lord of the Rings set that say the Ring Tempts You. And now we know what that actually means. So I'm just going to read this verbatim, and then we could discuss the effects and whether or not we find them useful. So the Ring Tempts You. As the Ring tempts you, you get an emblem named the Ring, if you don't have one. Then your emblem gains its next ability, and you choose a creature you control to become or remain your ring bearer. The Ring can tempt you even if you don't control a creature. Fair. The Ring gains its ability in order from top to bottom. Once it gains an ability, it has the ability for the rest of the game. Okay. Each time the Ring tempts you, you must choose a creature you control. If you control one, excuse me. Each player can have only one emblem named the Ring and only one ring bearer at a time. The Ring. Your ring bearer is legendary, and you can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. That legendary ruling's interesting. You just want to stop like tier to tier and discuss the text.
Yeah, we can do that. I love it from a flavor standpoint, just this first one, because the creature's legendary. The whole story is revolving around the ring bearer. Like,
right.
That's just kind of a fun little thing to add there. And I also love that it's basically you're hiding from all the big scary stuff, like the first bit of the Lord of the Rings story. What are they called? Death Rider? I can't remember the name of the Shadow Riders.
Mm-hmm.
When Frodo's hiding from the Shadow Riders at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. I love it. It's a nice little nod.
Yeah, and here I am, not even thinking about flavor, but I'm thinking about effects that care whether or not the thing is legendary. So destroy target creature that blocked or was blocked by a legendary creature this turn. There are effects like, I think it's Hero's Blade. The equipment cost is less if your creature's legendary. There are a handful.
Like Blade Reforge, I think was another one. That's equip for 7, but equip for 3 on a legendary.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to see if this cracks anything for the rest of our deck. Obviously, if you're manipulating the Ring, it's very likely you're playing a legendary in the command zone that is being tempted by the Ring. So in general, giving other creatures legendary, is it relevant? I can't quite say. There are things that do work with that little bit of text, though. But by and by, it's just some form of evasion, so that's nice. Whenever your ring bearer attacks, draw a card, then discard a card.
Hand fixing. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Don't need to
so
say a lot.
no, yeah, there's not much there. It's looting, it's not rummaging, which means it's better because of course blue would get the better effect. Obviously, I want to see all my options before I throw something out. Did I just pull another land? Okay, safe to drop the other land. Whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, a creature's controller sacrifices at the end of combat. We were saying weird death touch, but then Will made the bright observation of sedating that it gets around indestructible.
Yeah, a little bit better death touch.
That indestructible measly creature. Like what?
What is it called? Darksteel Mirror, something like that. 3-mana 0/1 indestructible.
Right.
You can't use that to block anymore.
Exactly. So it's getting cut from all the cEDH lists. No one's running Darksteel Mirror. I want to try the ring in my Derevi deck, says Nelson. All right, fair. I think that you mean the one ring, and there is a poll ongoing now. I'm curious to know if you guys. I know there's a combo for the one ring. I know that you could draw your deck, so on and so forth. So there is precedent for it to be played, and that's why I'm asking. Do you guys see yourself playing the one ring? And obviously there's the one ring, and then there's the emblem that we're discussing now that we have full knowledge of, and the last effect of which I like how it sort of pyramids into the triangle at the bottom. Do you notice that with the down arrows?
Yeah.
Whenever your ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life.
So, not the most insane effect for the bottom, but there's one question that I have for Wizards of the Coast, which is going to decide if this is going to be cEDH or not. Does it stack? If you go to the 5th Temptation of the Ring, will you deal 6 damage instead? Then deal 9 damage for the 6th attempt of the ring,
right?
And just keep stacking. Because if so, a lot of the old creatures are really powerful. If not,
Yeah, 3 damage is, I mean, it's a bolt. Like, that's not a laughable amount. It's a very effective amount, but I can't say that that's going to be game ending unless you have infinite combat steps. But if you have infinite combat steps, then, then this is trifling. But the only reason you feel like there might be a precedence for this, and bearing in mind, until the set's fully released, we're not going to get any official rulings on this, or maybe they might speak to it. That would be great. But you were mentioning how Frodo says 4 or more times tempted, correct?
Yep. Frodo says, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game if you've been tempted by the ring 4 or more times this game. Otherwise, the ring tempts you.
Right, so it keeps track of... Right, or are we meant to keep track of anything beyond 4? Because otherwise I would just put like a Moncala beat or something and just go down the line and that's it. But this makes it sound like you want to slap a d20 on this and then see how far you get tempted, right?
Yep, because if you're playing Sam, who has a part of his effect be ETB tempt, you can just flicker Sam with all those random white flicker effects and Eldrazi Displacer. And then you just go, okay, I've been tempted 12 times. That means that I have 5 charges of the final... Or sorry, I've been tempted 12 times. That means that I have 9 charges of the final effect of the ring. So everyone take 27.
Right, and if that's what that means, then of course I'm going to brew Samwise the Stout-Hearted. Not only because, one, this is one of my favorite scenes from any movie, easily. And it could be a reference to the books as well. It doesn't matter. But the silhouette and the imagery is clearly derived from the film franchise, right? I would love to play this card solely for that purpose. But I need to have a little bit better reason than just the art. But even still, this is one of the new cards that was recently spoiled. I believe the card has been out, but this is new art for it. And so we're getting a glimpse at what some of the alternate art from the set is going to look like. But before we move on to any of that and any of the new spoils, any lasting thoughts on the ring? I think outside of the Commander format, it's going to be great. In the commander format, it's not as broken as, say, an adventure is. You know what I mean? Like, adventures can be broken, and there were plenty of legendaries that you could rip and roar and go through it, go on an adventure endlessly and kill everyone. This is a little bit more balanced, I suppose.
Yeah, because
I'm sorry, enter the dungeon, not Eldraine's adventures.
Yeah.
I mean, enter the dungeon and crawl through a dungeon. Sorry.
Yeah. If it stacks, I think this is going to be very fun for Sam the Wise and Golem. I think they might actually have cEDH decks where people just go get my commander out 30 million times, have fun, win the game. And one thing I do want to say, the second effect, loot, when the ring bearer attacks, that is surprisingly good for black because of reanimates. So Golem might be decent just because you can discard your Vilis or your Razaketh. Because we don't have a lot of mono black commanders that let you discard and are also cheap, and Golem is too.
Yeah, or just or just card quality. I mean, there was Grizzlebrand, right? But
yeah,
no longer. I don't know. We need to have like an unbanned evening. After Untapped, we run unbanned, and then it's just live stream gameplay of the stuff we want to play, like Braids, or moreover Grizzlebrand. Just ramp out to Grizzlebrand. It'll be okay. But flavor wise, I know that some people were feeling the ring was a little bit of a miss. And I was sort of on board with that, but you broke down these effects in a way that made it flavor, to use your coin of phrase, flavor acceptable.
Yeah.
So take us through the tiers of flavor acceptability.
So the first one summarizes kind of the start of the story perfectly. We get the legend of Frodo Baggins taking the ring, which is why he's legendary, and he's avoiding all the big scary monsters that want to kill him, so that's the evasion. So I love the first effect, and I can't remember what I did with the other effects. I think it was first effect that, can't remember what I said about the looting, but the third effect is interesting because I believe that's supposed to be the nod to Smeagol or something with Frodo being corrupted, because it's whenever whenever a creature blocks the ring bearer, you kill the creature, or like you get rid of the creature. So that's either Frodo kicking Sam out of the party on the way to Mount Doom, or that's Golem or Smeagol or whatever you want to call him. He has two names. He's cool that way. It's him trying to kill Frodo and biting the ring off of Frodo, which is also a good nod. And then finally, the final effect, because I remember everyone was saying, if the ring corrupts you, it should kill you. That makes sense, right?
Right, well, as a fourth and final effect.
Yep. If the ring corrupts the ring bearer enough times, Sauron wins and that's the end of the world. So it kind of makes sense that the final effect is, if you get corrupted enough times, start killing everyone.
Right. Was everyone hoping for like a Lich's Mastery type of deal?
I think
Do you know
so.
what I mean? Like where
like
the
that.
last choice you select. I mean, there's a couple of cards that have this, but it's generally 4 options, and then one of the 4 is dreadful. It's you losing the game. I think that's what the expectation was, but what we got is more akin to Amazon's the Rings of Power, right? Or whatever that series was called. It's more akin to that, where, you know, it's just bad stuff happening to good people. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's assuming your play group is full of good people.
I do really love the Golem flavor now, because with everything being tempted by the ring, and we know all the stuff for that, it's really funny that when Golem leaves the field, you get tempted by the ring, because that's literally what happens in the book and in the movie, where Golem loses the ring and then the next person gets tempted. And then you can pay 1 black and sacrifice a creature you control to return Golem to your hand to have him kind of re-enter the story and everything like that.
I like that it's not
the ring back.
I like that it's not a reanimate either. It also plays to his name, because he was patient about his approach to get his precious back. You know, he didn't just like go rush at them. Like a reanimate to battlefield would have been wrong. I think two hand makes more sense, and it's very all on flavor. Because it's giving you, the player, a moment to be like, okay, when's the best time to put Golem back out? I love it. I think flavor-wise, they've done a lot of work here. I think they have done an acceptable job, in my opinion, as well.
I'm not losing my mind over how flavorful it is, but I'm willing to be like, you did good.
Yeah, yeah. Job well done. So some of these cards we've seen already. This is obviously we discussed just two of those so far, but we have Frodo Sauron's Bane. Y'all remember this scene as well. But again, just really good art all over. Tom Bombadil is not featured in the film franchise, but he's very important to the books. Is it ever mentioned that he's a god? I mean, it's assumed, but he gets the god subtype. I'm just realizing that now. And then, yeah, some more amazing art, which, God, just makes me really happy. So where do we get to the new cards? I think it's time to discuss. Oh, well, actually, while we're here, so there's another Commander. Is it just called Commander Legends 2? Is that what they're referencing it as?
It's Commander Legends, I think is what it's being called.
Or Commander Masters? Because
Commander Masters, you're right, not Commander Legends. My bad.
Right. Oh, you're good. So yeah, you were excited about this, Will.
Yeah, so Commander Masters, uh, we are getting a bunch of new and amazing cards and a lot of really good reprints because the first card that got reprinted and the first card that we got spoiled was Personal Tutor.
I wouldn't say new or amazing, but go on.
Yeah, yes. So we've gotten a lot of new cards and a lot of amazing cards, but we also got amazing reprints. So Personal Tutor is an amazing reprint. And this card has been slowly going up in price since I've been playing the game because I think when I initially started, you could pick up a Personal Tutor for
cheap.
$10.
They're cheap. Yeah, and
now it's $84.
Yeah. The
So
prices will go down on the portal copy for sure if you like that art, but
it got the Imperial Seal treatment. So people were like, "Hey, yeah, we need to make this card cheaper." And what do you know? They're reprinting it to try to make the card cheaper.
Yeah, look, get your Peer into the Abyss, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you go 4 or 5 color, you generally have better tutors. But I think for a handful of lists, you're going to want to roll with Personal Tutor. Any effective low CMC tutor, I know top of deck isn't what you want to see at sorcery speed. You know, it's like your Sylvan tutor as opposed to your worldly tutor in that aspect. It's still a very effective tutor in this color. So, like, it's nice to see a reprint. But beyond the reprints and beyond the alt arts, I'm liking these Zavala.
I do want to give one more reprint note. Jewel Lotus. It's getting reprinted.
Right. And so we have this alt art that it's like someone's throwing the Jeweled Lotus at you.
It's like it's exploding or something.
Yeah,
they're starring it. There's 2 new arts for it, and I actually like the cosmic art better.
Right.
But one is like a pinkish, purplish vortex in the background. The other one is like a night sky swirling in the background. Like it looks a lot more galaxy-esque.
Yeah, this looks cool. This looks really cool. Yeah, it's nice to see Jeweled Lotus reprint because that card hasn't been around for a while, and it is more than a personal tutor. I can tell you that. And I have a foily version, and actually, I don't remember.
It depends because the regular version is $80, whereas a regular personal tutor is $84. The personal tutor is more.
True. I have a foil version of the standard. I don't like extendeds where they just zoom in on the image. That's not doing it for me. Yeah. It's the same for like One Piece. Like when some of these alters, like they'll do a zoom in, but they'll change the background, and that's cool. But if it's just a zoom in, like if you literally just had your team like in a photo editor, pinch it in, that's just not enough for me. So sometimes the flavor text is also really good, and you miss that when you go for these zoomed in cards. And I like the flavor text on this card. So buying decisions, don't buy it though if it's going to break your bank. But hopefully with these reprints, if you plan on drafting Commander Masters or making a Commander Cube, you'll pull one. It's a very good card in Commander specifically. I'm so surprised that it's so expensive. But Commander's a pretty popular format. So we want to discuss some of the legendaries that dropped, and I really want to play this guy because I like dumb stuff. Steven says the ring stuff is confusing and awesome. It's a little confusing, and I would agree it's awesome. But we have another new legendary to discuss. Oh my gosh, Commander Masters brought us Zul'Adok Void Gorger, maybe the best colorless cEDH commander. So it's a 7/4 legendary creature Eldrazi. Colorless spells you cast from your hand with mana value 7 or greater have Cascade, comma, Cascade, period. All right, hit him, Will.
So
Tell him how they make this work.
there's already a combo for this, and it's Metalwork Colossus. Metalwork Colossus is an 11 mana creature that costs less for the mana value of all of your non-creature artifacts on board, so you can make them cost 0 very easily. And if you have a sack outlet to get them in your graveyard, what you can do is cast Metalwork Colossus. Zuladoc will cascade into 2 cards for you, which are almost guaranteed to be artifacts. Then you can sacrifice Metalwork Colossus to something. Let's say Ashnod's Altar, just for shiggles. Um, and then you can sacrifice any 2 artifacts you don't like on your board, recur Metalwork Colossus, replay him, cascade into 2 more artifacts, repeat, repeat, repeat. And then you can build an entire board of whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So this is already a combo. And we have a couple different ways of searching up Metalwork Colossus that make it a bit more viable. And if you just throw in cost reduction, you can cascade through your deck really well with Zoladoc in the first place. So you don't even need the combo.
Right.
But the combo is nice.
Right, and this is like a prime target for Conduit of Ruin is one of the things, like so far as the deck is concerned. Thinking Conduit of Ruin's a good way to top deck tutor. It's also an effective means of cost reduction for your big artifact creatures. You mentioned the guy that gives affinity for artifacts to other things. I forget its name.
Mycosynth Golem. Yeah.
Mycosynth Golem. So there's stuff to make this work. Like, I just want to explore the possibilities. Do I think that this is going to be a very good, very effective list?
This is going to be fun.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun, and that's what's more important to me. I actually want to brew Zuladoc, though. Like, I think that this is gonna turn the world on its head. This is what's gonna end world hunger. This is what's gonna solve world peace. I think if we had an effective Zuladoc and Commander, this is obviously I'm joking, but I think that if we had an effective Zuladoc and Commander, the world would be a brighter place, a colorless but brighter place. I do want to build this though, and I might do it Wednesday. If you want to do it with me, Will, then we can brew Zuladoc. We were gonna brew Gearson Starn because we did 2 very effective, super effective videos over the week on some off-meta cEDH commanders. Will was at the helm of the research on the scripts on those. Thank you for that. I feel like this would have pissed off a lot of people in one of those videos. Not that the videos didn't already piss people off, but I feel like we added a Void Gorger, excuse me. This would be like we turn a lot of heads. But I want to see if it's possible. It's just a test.
There are a lot of people that get pissed off at the off-meta builds. It's more so just because a lot of people say, this can't grind out tournaments. Like, this isn't going to be like the new hot tournament deck. And it's like, well, I make off-meta stuff just because it's good in a bunch of different pods. It allows you to play something different in your cEDH meta. And they do work in tournaments. The problem is that a lot of people have figured out what they want from tournaments. So if you'll see tournaments, there's like an off-meta, there's like, what is it? About 20% to 30% of tournaments is off-meta decks. And then everything else is like Winota, Blue Farm, and TNT. Or Kenrith and Najeela. So it's just the meta stuff. And that 20 to 30%, weirdly enough, also makes it to the top 20 to 30%. Like, it makes it into about 20 to 30% of the top decks, like the top 4 and the top 16. 20 to 30% of them are off-meta decks. So the off-meta decks are performing exactly to the degree of how many people are bringing them. And for the meta decks, they're performing to the exact same degree of how many people are bringing them. So you're gonna see Blue Farm, TNT, all those kind of decks. They're gonna be a percent of the top decks compared to the percent of players that are bringing them almost every single time. And I've seen this in so many different tournaments. It's not always true, but it's pretty accurate. People just snap to, I don't think it's better than Blue Farm. I don't think it's better than TNT.
Right.
But in the end, it's like, well, Blue Farm and TNT are making up most of the tournament because most of the people are bringing them. So,
Hmm.
eh.
Yeah.
And I'll still say those are good decks. It's just that don't underestimate the off meta. The off meta does work very well.
Right. And it's always like a shade of, or it's just a shade of one of those popular pairings or legendaries, right? Because you'll see Thrasios, and I know Chris was actually just playing a curiosity list with Vile Smasher, right? And I thought that was pretty effective. But the body of that deck is the same as pretty much the body of a blue farm list, is pretty much the same as the body of any other partner pairing in those in the 4-color region. So you're basically getting the same deck with like a different name, whatever splashy title you want to give it. But we did want to discuss in a future episode the nature of competitive decks and the types of lists that you'll see winning tournaments or attending tournaments, like by and large, like what you were suggesting, the numbers of the list you see entered that are, this pairing, and then the few that are like Edrix and whatever. But we did want to discuss that and like how cEDH pertains to your kitchen table, your local game store, and then a tournament event, because it does vary. And I think people have varying opinions because of that. I, again, am only of the mindset that there's you play competitively, Commander's a casual format. That's how I see it. And I know that's upsetting or startling for people to hear, but having played this game for years, and playing off meta stuff exclusively, it's just something I've witnessed. And I'm sure my success rate would be higher if I just bought all the blue staples and played blue and got over my conniptions with blue. But I always feel like when I do play blue in Commander, it's like life on easy street. It's just so much simpler. The interactions you have, the card effects you have, the win the game effects. And this was before Thassa's Oracle. This is when it was just Labman. There's no Jace. There's no alternatives. Like, I remember it being grossly effective then, and it's only gotten more effective now. I think if I got over my conniptions with that, I would have much more success. But then that's not really what interests me about this format at all. It's dumb stuff like Zuladoc. And then if I win with Zuladoc, I've not only bested my opponents, but I bested my own expectations of what I could do. And that's more exciting. Not winning tournaments necessarily, but I do want to get that perspective, because there are people that tournament grind and have a firmer opinion of like the game winningest decks and how to make a list consistent. And I think that for a certain segment of our viewing audience is important. So I do want to get that perspective in there.
Yeah. I do also want to add that the best deck to play is the deck that you know to pilot the best. Because if you understand your deck, you're going to know the play lines, know how to play out of certain situations. So if what you know is your off-meta deck, that's probably the best thing for you to play in the first place.
Right. I want to... sorry.
And I wanted to add in what Bai said in the comments, which is it's such a high variance game mode. Meta is barely better than everything else usually. It's better, sure, but off-meta is significantly more fun and isn't unplayable by any stretch. Yeah, it's you'll see that people say like TNT and Blue Farm have like a 27-28% win rate, which in Commander your average is supposed to be like 25%. So it's like it's usually better than average. If you keep track of your own wins and everything like that, you'll usually find that your pet decks get like over 25% a lot of the time, just because that's what you know how to pilot. So it's, for your personal experience, it may actually be that you're better off playing something that's not TNT.
But I like Bai's suggestion that blue is the cheese magic build in a Soulsborne game. Like, it's when you have that mixed physic that lets you cast you don't lose FP, and then you just go for the Hadoken. Yeah, it's pretty much that, and you just like melt bosses. It's blue. It does feel like that, which is a really good comparison. I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I agree with you, Will. I agree with Bai. I agree that there are decks that just come out on top majority of the time, and it makes sense. And I will state that it was so sad. You're going to see a video of myself and Chris, one of our writers and contributors here on the channel. Chris is great. Play with cEDH TV. And I, prior to gaming with them, revised my Belby deck with like 30 minutes. And I tried to make it more... I added all the fast mana. It's insane, dude, how poor my luck was. I added all the fast mana, I had all the stuff so that even if I didn't have a good Belby play, that I would have a good like stacks piece to lay out to slow down the game. And my starting hand of 7 was like, it didn't do the Belby thing, but it had like a what is it called? The 1 green enchantment that your creatures and lands enter tapped, or your lands, I forget what it's called. Root maze. Root maze. It had a root maze, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna stop people, even if I was 4th in turn order to these aggro list, to these fast lists. Well, one was control, one was Neheb, and then one was like the turbo build. And being 4th playing stacks with a list that was freshly revised sucks. So I'm like, well, I got to do the Belby thing. And I mulled. I went down to 5 cards. I bricked so hard. Like, it's the saddest game. Not to spoil anything. Did I win? Did I lose? I guess you're going to have to watch to find out. But my God, it was so bad. And then sometimes you just brick like that. Like, I don't know. It's so tough. Like, the variance in that game, like, you could just be missing on all... You could just be missing on like every time you try to fire off something, you could just be missing.
I get
hurt.
That
hurt.
All right.
So at any rate, Onyxia, good little sidebar. Onyxia, Hand of Erebos. So 2 generic and an Abzan for a 4/4 legendary enchantment creature demigod with some sick art, by the way. I love the enchant creatures from this like region of MTG where they have like that sort of celestial effect to their character.
Yeah, like the cosmic stardust thing going on.
Right. The only one I ever see is the Eidolon of Rhetoric. But Menace, other enchantment creatures you control have Menace. Cool. Whenever Onyxia enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types. Okay. Take it away, good sir.
So there's a lot of dumb things that you can do with this, because on top of the fact that this lets you just turn Entomb or Unmarked Grave into a tutor for any enchantment that you want, because you can just reanimate it as a 3/3. This also lets you cheat in massive things with that. So for instance, I did a quick search, and I'm probably going to have to do it again, of all the big enchantments that you can run in these colors. And there's a couple things that I saw, and I'm like, oh, cheating that in is pretty good, because I think Nyxbloom Ancient was one for a crap ton of mana. Because you can just cheat in Nyxbloom Ancient, and then it's a 3/3 menace that makes you a ton of mana, and you got it in for like 1 black. Let's see a couple of the others, because I need to refresh my memory, because there's a lot of weird things here.
The enters the battlefield is like the interesting part to me. But yeah.
You can get Zendikar Resurgent, getting extra mana and getting extra draw. You can get a couple of the different reanimate enchantments, because what is it? You have Debtor's Knell, you have Grave Betrayal, you have things like that are going to be very good at just reanimating some random things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also cheat in stuff like Lich's Mastery, which people don't usually want to run for good reason, because it's a high mana cost thing. But if you have some kind of combo, it's pretty nice. And the one thing I want to add that I really love is you can make a Rust deck with this commander. With what is her name? Ankhthea, which the idea of a Rust deck is it's the same concept as Shimmerzer, except you rely more on reanimates than artifacts. So basically what you can do is you can get Necropotence into play, and then you can get a bunch of cards in hand, and then you can either discard to hand size or discard to card effects and flicker your commander to basically reanimate these enchantments, so that you can get them into play at instant speed on your end step to kind of set up some kind of win or some kind of board state that will let you win. I haven't looked into it entirely, but it does seem very good. There's also probably some dumb Hermit Druid lines here.
Right. Dude, I mean, I think like the big enchantment that... What's the best enchantment in black? Go.
Best enchantment in black, probably Necropotence.
Okay, so that's what I thought, right? So exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard, and then you just... So let's just say you entomb your Necropotence, and then you blink her. you have a you have a well, and in this instance it's actually really interesting because you can do the necro thing and then kill necro because it's a creature, right? You just sacrifice it.
Yep.
I don't know, is it good?
You can also do Smothering Tithe, and there's something else that I saw that I'm like, oh, this is potentially really good, but I can't remember what it was now. I think it was this
Okay.
white card that says when an enchantment enters your battlefield, you can exile a creature, and then when it return it on the end step.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that just lets you get a flicker engine going with your commander to constantly reanimate an enchantment every single turn.
Right. So
It's on an end step, you exile your commander. She returns on the enemy end step, bringing back an enchantment which exiles your commander. Going, going, and going.
yeah, this is going to be really gross, man. I just need to see. I need to see the enchantments that have interactions or give your creatures things, and then I want to see if bringing back that enchantment as this creature gives you like combo X or Y. I think that Onyxia has more hope than Zuladoc. Let me just say that, and I'll leave it to a poll to those watching right now. So for Wednesday's brewing session, we're gonna go from A to Z. Would you rather? Which do you want a deck for? Do you want us to make a deck for Onyxia, or do you want us to make a deck for Zulu Doc? And just to refresh your memory, this is Zulu Doc. Cascade 2, or Cascade twice, excuse me, or Onyxia, who will reanimate enchantments. So, like, you have the best excuse to run your Entomb or your Unmarked Grave, and it's not even like you don't need to cast Reanimate, you just blink her. And Blink is a good effect just by itself. Like, so I feel like having this in the list, having Blink in the list with this is just grossly effective. Like, we might run 2 to 3 Blink effects just to leverage this. It does suck that you exile the thing, so you better make sure you're going off properly with this card.
I also do want to add, because I saw this card initially, then forgot to bring it up for the podcast. Cadaverous Bloom, which
Oh
is
my
just
god, yes.
yeah,
Sorry.
3 a black and a green, exile a card from your hand, make either 2 black or 2 green.
Right.
That's really good if you can flash that in with the Necro.
Oh my god. Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. You're so right. This is one of my like favorite pet cards.
It might have a home in cEDH now.
Well, but legitimately with Onyxia, you weren't kidding. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking of the one that came to mind was the other one where you could like sacrifice lands to make mana. It's from Visions, I think.
Reign of Filth?
No. It's an enchantment as well, but I think it's off color for us. But my mind was going there, and I was trying to remember this one. I was like ruin something.
No, it's Golgari. It's Golgari. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Scorched,
I can find that really quick. You say what you're gonna say. I'll look it up.
Well, yeah, I was thinking. Obviously, mana production with this effect and a Necropotence is obviously good. But there's got to be some combination of things we can do end step while we're going down to hand size and then getting those triggers off of Necropotence that we can just start cheating out some pretty gross stuff here. Like, we would want to like drop the Will was suggesting, to drop the Cadaverous Bloom and then use some form of instant reanimation to bring it back, like a flicker effect. And then we would be able to go off by exiling cards from our hand, producing mana, dig deeper. Right, and Necropotence is having us lose life, so whatever the next effect we do, we just need to make sure that, well, again, this is a lot of theory crafting, and I haven't much, this is my first time seeing Onyxia, but yeah, mana production was high on my mind, so thank you for bringing this up. But what is the other one? It's like dried resources or
Squandered Resources.
Squandered Resources.
And I know the reason why you thought it was off color. It's because of the art.
Right. Yes. Very confusing art. But it is Golgari. I thought it was Rakdos.
Yep.
Yeah. But dude, oh my god. So this is just another cool. This is another one of my favorite pet cards, but no one ever plays it. Because it's a little too cost prohibitive to start, and maybe it's something you want on field before you go off, but it's almost like having Reign of Filth where you sacrifice your swamps. Either way, Squandered Resources was really dope. If it's not expensive, $20, I think you should buy a copy because it's reserved, and at some point the people are going to want to play it. And I think this is also reserved, and if it's not expensive, $5. I feel like Onyxia, oh my gosh, I hate to say spec buy this, because it's going to go up, but I don't know.
I don't think it's going to go up for
Yeah.
Nykthia. If it didn't go up higher because of Gitrog, it's not going higher for Nykthia.
Okay, good. So
Also, I
there's that.
believe Reign of Filth says sacrifice a land, not just a
It's
swamp, and then it's out of black.
yeah. Well, I hope that's true because right, each land you control gains this, and then what is it? Am I thinking of like Bubbling Muck is the one that cares
Bubbling
about
Muck
swamps?
is your swamps tap for
Right.
an additional
Right.
black.
Yeah, I'm just going through all like the storm cards in black, and yeah, I mix those two up sometimes. But Rain of Filth is just lands. But yeah, this one's gross. You shouldn't do it unless you're in some really cool Razaketh line that's going to win immediately, or just play Hoarding Broodlord. Have you seen us talk about Hoarding Broodlord? Play Hoarding Broodlord. At any rate, moving on. Nykthia looks dope. We have the poll going up. I'm saddened at this point as I got really excited for Nykthia, and it seems like the audience wants Zuladoc. So please vote. I don't know how good Zuladoc's gonna be, but
You can brew a Nykthia later.
Yeah,
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah. I don't know about her in cEDH, but I'm very excited to build her. Casually says bye. Nelson says, I think Merkul is better at some point. Merkul. I guess that's another Abzan leader. I don't know. But I promise we're going to get to the Aftermath review. If you're joining us now, thanks. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. But we're going through all of the spoils that happened as of late, like just the other day. So we discussed the ring. You can wind this back if you want to know how the ring tempts people. But Commodore Guff is one of the other recent spoils from Commander Masters for 1 generic and Jeskai, 5 loyalty counters when it comes into play. It can be your commander. We're going to read that little bit of text first. So, relevant legendary Planeswalker Guff. At the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker you control. Planeswalker Tribal. +1. Create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with tap, add red mana. Yay! Spend this mana only to cast Planeswalkers. Okay, so that's Chandra. 4-drop Chandra. She's a little bit more cheap. Cheap to cast? Whatever. -3. You draw X cards, and Commodore Guff deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you control. Well.
So, I do just want to say, I feel like Guff is even worse because that -3 isn't a -5, because he might be cEDH viable if you just made infinite mana and then went through your deck infinitely by having 1 Planeswalker in play.
Right, so that's the thing. Like, there are ways to manipulate this to where you could just recast him and then do the thing, but or I guess just blink him, or what is the effective line here? So you make infinite mana. You have infinite mana. Go. What do you want to do with Guff?
Actually, I just thought about it, and I think there is actually a good line for him, and it's Displacer Kitten.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh yeah. We're blue.
Yeah, we're in blue.
I forgot. Hadouken. Okay. Displacer Kitten.
There is no explanation needed for this. Just have a couple Planeswalkers in play, and then just go draw 3, draw 3, draw 3, draw 3, draw 3.
Right. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent you control. Then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Okay, so yeah. So okay, infinite mana, Displacer Kitten. Whenever
I don't even think you need infinite mana all the time, because Displacer Kitten kind of makes you the infinite mana, because you can flicker rocks. So
yeah,
you can storm off with Displacer Kitten with this and Jeskai.
right. And well, you're suggesting, well, you do need a certain threshold of
Yes.
Planeswalkers. Otherwise, you're going to just be spinning the wheels and you're going to do minor damage. But let's just say you had, if it was just Commodore Guff by himself, you did not go Planeswalker Tribal. You just want to kill people with Commodore Guff. That's where I'm at. You know what I mean?
You need some level of Planeswalker Tribal to make the Displacer Kitten line functional. I think you need like 3 Planeswalkers in play to actually be able to do the loop effectively.
Okay. Well, so this is another interesting commander is what we're driving at. There's clearly something here. Whenever it says damage each opponent for -3 and you keep the guy around, that's pretty good. That seems pretty good. It's almost like nuking people with Jessica, but Jessica is a little bit simpler.
Jessica's just better. Jessica's so much better that you can pay X, where X
Right.
is Jessica's loyalty, kill
Yeah.
Jessica and return Jessica to the command zone to
Right.
repeat.
The fact that X is dependent on your planeswalkers, but I mean, even still, it's cool in that I like how this influences how you build the deck. I was just discussing the other day at lunch with people that, and we talk about Magic at luncheons, that I prefer when the card dictates the design of your deck. I find that far more interesting than sort of the good stuff strategy. Because, because why be consistent when you could be ridiculous with,
Yeah.
with a massive planeswalkers? But yeah, this seems like a cool potential commander. I'd love to see what you guys do for the Guff. But there was one last one.
Yes. There's a fourth in this list.
So for Wooburg, Sliver Grave Mother, 6/6, legendary creature Sliver. The legend rule doesn't apply to slivers you control. That's right. So if one was tempted, one is your ring bearer, then the legend rule doesn't apply to it? I don't know.
You don't have to worry about having multiple ring bearers that are also all sharing the exact same name.
Right. Each sliver creature card in your graveyard has Encore X, where X is its mana value. And in case you need a refresher, I'll leave this one on screen. But yeah, you like this.
Also, Encore 5. Don't forget the Encore 5. She revives herself.
Right. So pretty good.
Sliver Grave Mother is interesting. I don't think Sliver Grave Mother is going to be cEDH by any stretch of the imagination, but in casual, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about as good of a Sliver Storm card as the first Sliver. Debatably better, debatably worse. And the reason why is Slivers have plenty of effects to sacrifice themselves, like Basalt Sliver, and there are a bunch of Slivers that say your Slivers tap for mana. So what you can do is you can pay 1 mana to reanimate a 1 mana Sliver, and then you get 3 of them because Encore. Then they each tap for 1 mana each and sack for 2 mana each, netting you 9 mana. So you just paid 1 to make 9 mana and just exile the Sliver in your graveyard. Then you can storm off even further, get a bunch of Slivers into play that just say, give your Slivers blank, and then you kind of win the game just by making a massive board. I think that this is fantastic in general. I think it's better in the 99 for a lot of Sliver decks, but holy crap, this is terrifying in Slivers.
So what's your dream? What is your dream buried alive pile with Sliver Grave Mother?
Do we even need Buried Alive? I think you can do Hermit Druid.
Well, okay, yeah, that's true.
Hermit Druid, just play your entire deck, win the game.
Well, definitely. I mean, you're going to be very easily be able to exclude basics in 5 colors, but I think that I would want lines that operate. I know what you're saying. Obviously, Hermit Druid is better, but it's slow technically, right?
Yeah.
So if I Buried Alive, are there 3 creatures that give me a Sliver win?
I think you might be able to get away with Basalt Sliver, any mana Sliver, and Sliver Overlord. Because Sliver Overlord lets you tutor for any Slivers, and then you can probably do something with that. Because you just need to keep 1 mana Sliver and 1 Basalt Sliver, and then 1 Sliver Overlord. And you can tutor for a Sliver, play it, tap it, or play it, sacrifice it with Basalt Sliver, get it back, and then tap the 3 copies for mana, sack however many of them you want, and you can build an entire board of Slivers. So there is a Buried Alive pile, more likely than not.
Okay.
Because all you need is you just need 2 mana and Buried Alive, and then you win the game.
Well, there you have it.
I don't think it's going to be a cEDH commander, but it is going to be terrifying in casual decks.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be maybe more cEDH than Zuladoc. Not to put my boy down, but
yeah. I mean, it's Wooburg. You can just run Wooburg good stuff on top of it.
Right. So your secret is that you present Sliver Grave Mother, but then it's basically just like Blue Farm without the draw. It's you just run the same deck. That'd be so horrible.
I'd be tempted to try to brew this in cEDH. I might do that in my free time at some point.
Okay. Yeah. We should. Well, we want to start producing more deck techs on the channel. I know that was the bread and butter for the channel in the past, and a lot of people really appreciated the thought process that went into the strategizing here. If you feel like this is a fun enough deck to talk about, though, we could definitely maybe do like a proper deck tech so people can try it out. Slivers are always popular, so I feel like it might deserve one. Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
You don't have to brew this if you don't want to.
I'm probably gonna brew it anyways because I try to brew everything that's weird and I don't think people would usually brew just to be able to test it.
Have we seen this yet? So we're jumping in between topics here, but we did discuss how the Ring Tempts You earlier, and I did kind of want to discuss other new LOTR cards. Have we seen this before? I know I've seen this art.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings tempt enchantment thing.
Mm-hmm.
Call of the Ring. So we have not discussed this. This is a completely new card. So we got two new cards from Lord of the Rings in addition to learning what the ring does.
Well, this is a good draw engine if you have a way to manipulate the ETB ring bearer, right? Because, hold up, right? At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have a creature that ETBs and can...
It's whenever you're tempted by the ring, you choose a ring bearer, not when a creature enters.
Right. But if you had one of the ones that, well, do any of them ETB? It's just LTB on Gollum, right? When he
Gollum is LTB, Sam is ETB, and Frodo is on attack.
All right, I'm just trying to see if there's a cool engine here.
There's probably something that you can do with Goblin, or a Gollum, not Goblin, Lord.
It's confusing. What do they? I mean, he's technically a halfling, right? His subtype.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm curious.
He's a halfling horror.
Halfling horror. Okay. At any rate, so yeah, we got Call of the Ring. It's cheeky, probably going to be fun to play with. I can't say that it's going to be effective outside of lists that care about temptation. And then we have. Oh, sorry.
It also depends on how good Tempt the Ring is and if Tempt the Ring stacks. Because if it's just at the beginning of your upkeep, the ring tempts you, that sucks. If it's just, oh yeah, you hit 4 and stop. But if you keep going, that's really good because you're ticking up the damage from the ring every turn. But if it doesn't tick up the damage, bad.
You know, honestly, this is kind of cool as a draw utility, like to pair with your Dark Confidants and whatnot in a mono black list, because it doesn't require you. Obviously, we want to leverage this to get a lot of draw, but just by itself, whenever you choose
2 mana draw a card every turn, lose 2 life.
Right.
Yeah. It also has the cool tech of giving a creature evasion, giving you looting effect, giving you some level of removal on enemy creatures if they block, and chunking enemies down. So it is just useful. It's good utility.
Is it Phyrexian Arena? What is the...
Phyrexian Arena is the 3 mana one.
You draw a card, lose 1 life. So it's like higher risk and then the same reward, but it's lower cost. So yeah, does it replace Phyrexian Arena?
Honestly, yes. Just because of the utility from the ring, giving something evasion every turn is pretty good.
Yeah, okay, you know what? No, this is just leagues better because you do need to think about the emblem aspects. Like you're getting the loot, you're getting the evasion. Yeah.
You know, I was looking at it and I'm like, it's kind of a joke card. And then, we kind of just talked ourselves into better Phyrexian Arena.
Right, because I know people are still high on Phyrexian Arena. I mean, people do run this card. So I've never liked Phyrexian Arena personally, but I do like Call of the Ring. It's throwing me off though, because I feel like it would be an artifact with these colors.
It's also the border. The border does the whole shiny thing that they did for what's it called, the Warhammer 40k guys, the Necrons. So it's throwing me off too.
But just as a refresher, like if they don't touch your Call of the Ring, then you're gonna get all of these effects, which is really dope. Yeah, wow, it's actually kind of good. I feel like that could just be played.
I kind of brushed over that until we just had this conversation. That's actually nice.
Yeah, deals combat damage to a player. Each opponent loses 3 life. Like no joke, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, because if you do this turn 1, even if you don't, actually no, you have to choose a creature to draw the card. So you can't just turbo this out. You need a creature in play.
You've got Rograk.
It's still fine.
You've got Rograk. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put this in your Rograk partner pairing, and then you have Rograk Call of the Ring. Rograk becomes your new Golem. All right.
It's also funny because you can shut it off yourself if you're getting low on life just by not having any creatures in play on your upkeep. So,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I actually do kind of like that.
I like it a lot. So I'm going to run it in every blacklist. Sauron, the Necromancer. This is new, right? We haven't seen this?
This is the new Sauron.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay, we've seen the Rakdosian one. So,
Yeah. What was the previous one was a Avatar horror, and the new one is an Avatar horror.
okay, okay. So for 3 generic and double black 4/4 menace. Whenever Sauron the Necromancer attacks, so not on combat damage, just attacking, exile target creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 3/3 black ring wraith. With menace, at the beginning of the next end step, exile that token unless Sauron is your ring bearer.
Interesting. That's kind of what I just have to say about Sauron.
Yeah, it's a reanimate. It's like is it just a worse version of that Mardu girl that brings stuff back? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I mean, it's a worse version of the Good Boys. You know
Yeah.
who I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a worse version. And
Yeah.
I do know. Okay, so I think it's fine. Look, if you care about like Lord of the Rings and you just want to play a Sauron, I think that this is probably fine.
Yeah, because it's you could play a Mardu 5 mana 6/6. What is it? Lifelink Vigilance creature that reanimates something, but you have to exile a little bit. Or you can play Sauron, where you can just reanimate a thing and make it smaller, and then probably do something with Razakath. So it's Sauron is probably a little bit more consistent than the other two, but he's cutting out all the colors, and he has worse keywords, and he has worse stats, and he makes the creature weaker. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
rough. All right, well, we talked through them all, I think.
And then we have lands.
Right, yeah, so if you guys are hyped for Doctor Who, guess what? You're going to see that telephone booth in a variety of different settings once the Doctor Who Universes Beyond set comes out later this year. Am I advertising this right? I'm not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I do. I'm not being paid for this. But yeah, all the Doctor Who stuff. You excited? Get excited. Watch Doctor Who. You better want this set. I don't care what your hobbies or interests are. You better want this set. And now we're moving on to Aftermath. It's the Aftermath, though. Why does this preview say Aftermath?
I don't know.
I want the there, Will. I want the there. Okay, so before we move on, thanks for joining us. This is the main part of our stream. We try to narrow these down to an hour, but we spoke on just a handful of spoils for an hour. So that's interesting how that worked.
And yeah, we went on so many different tangents just because we love to banter.
Yeah, but on that note, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's get to our main topic of discussion today. The side topic was how the ring tempts you. But Swifter says, I was talking with my friend last night, we hate the flavor text on the ring. It shouldn't all be good things. We do talk about that a little bit earlier, Swifter, if you missed it. Definitely wind back, but we found it flavor acceptable. And Sliver Legion with Grave Mother seems nasty in casual tables, says Thales. Sorry if I Ramos. Yeah, it does sound cool. So moving forward, we're just going to go over the Aftermath in Rubric order. There's only 50 cards. Just put us on a timer. Let's see how long this takes. But we're going to cover just the ones we found to be, I don't know, cEDH viable or at least interesting from this set. We're going to be discussing a lot of these cards more in depth over the course of this coming week. So, if you don't want to sit through this podcast, totally understandable. But if you want our unfiltered opinions, unscripted, well, this is the right place to be. I used to do live stream set reviews in the past, and I think they were widely enjoyed because you guys can ask us questions about cards that we don't mention. So if there's something that you want us to look at when we go through a section, I'll stop, and then you can say, hey, can we take a look at this card from white or this card in blue? And we'll do that. But Will, anything from white?
So there are 3 cards that are a little bit notable, and I'm not going to go into detail on them. I just want to give them a quick brush over. So there's a harnessed Snubhorn. It's just a dino that whenever it takes damage, you can reanimate an artifact or enchantment. That's it. You can just play that Smothering Tithe from your graveyard, get back any of your mana rocks, just as long as it gets pinged. There's probably something fantastic here, but it's just kind of a weird line more than anything else.
Yeah.
Metropolis Reformer. It's just a nice utility card. It's a 3 mana 2/3 flying vigilance. You have hexproof, and when this takes damage, you gain that much life. So it's a really good chump blocker, and it protects you from being targeted. Nothing
Yeah.
fantastic, but just kind of generally nice.
Yeah, there's some like redirect spells though that you could potentially pop on her and just gain life for your Adnos.
Yep. And
Okay.
then finally, Tazri Stalwart Survivor. Tazri is a 2 and a white for a 3/3. Creatures you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend that mana only to activate the abilities of creatures. Um, yeah.
It's
So
fine.
yeah, it's cool. And then you can pay Wooburg to mill 5 cards and put all creature cards with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities from among them into your hand. So a little bit of draw, a little bit of mana ability. It's fine.
Yeah, and that's really all there is for white.
So yeah, white doesn't have a lot that's too notable. But to be
Yeah.
fair, there's not a lot in this set anyways, so there's
Yeah.
not too much to note.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's sad when you see a Wooburg Tazri. You really want more. But
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's there. I think there's probably better legendaries for these colors, and I mean all the colors. Swifter says, "Yeah, I only just got here. Got you. Harness Snubborn is when it deals damage, not takes damage.
oh, did I misread that? My bad. I
When it deals combat damage.
mentally filtered it to be like, ah, it's an Ixalan dino.
Yeah, right. So
So
you wanna use those ping effects, I guess, or
yeah, so when it deals combat damage, you reanimate something, which does make it like a nice little grindy tool, less combo based, but it's still good. Like I think it's
yeah,
still solid.
I think
Fun
that's
fact, you can reanimate that reanimate aura to reanimate a creature. So you can kind of cheat the system there.
true. I like it. I like Harness Snubhorn, and thanks for the correction.
Thank you.
Has a hit to a player. Has to hit a player. It does need to deal combat damage to a player.
Yep.
It's only vigilant. It doesn't have trample or anything.
I misread it because I just kind of went over it very, very briefly before.
Someone's suggesting that Tazri breaks intruder alarm. That's not what you said. You said
Yes.
they go infinite with intruder alarm, and
Yeah,
yeah.
that is kind of true, and you're in the colors to tutor for it. Yeah, you
You're
can
in
do
the
intruder
colors.
alarm.
Here's the thing. Okay. So yes, this is a direct line with Tazri, but when you're in 5 colors, you can kind of just do anything, right? Does
Yeah,
it lend itself well to any one thing though? And yeah, I would say intruder alarm is the line. That's probably what you want to go for here. Um, yeah,
there is
that's
the
that's a
chance that you brick though, which is terrifying because you need creatures with activated abilities that aren't mana abilities because you have to hit a creature in the 5 or hit enough creatures in one pile to get into another pile. And you still need mana ability creatures in play to play the creatures so that you can untap everything because Tazri does not let you use the mana abilities to play creatures, only to activate their abilities. So I don't think Intruder Alarm goes infinite, but it can. It's just a lot
right.
harder of a setup than A plus B.
Maybe yeah. It's like you'll need a creature with like the static effect of and an activated ability. Like your other creatures
Bloom
get
Tender.
can tap for mana, or yeah, they're like a bloom tender or something on the battlefield.
Catilda also kind of works. Your humans have tap for a mana of one of this creature's colors.
Right. Or
And Catilda also has an activated ability that isn't a mana ability, so she gets hit off Tazri.
yeah, and it's yeah exactly. So it's okay. Yeah, I guess it would be okay if the creature had a mana ability and another activated ability that was non mana, then it would still count. I mean, not. I'm just thinking beyond Catilda. But put all creature cards activated. Yeah, seems cool. Uh, Even if it was insano powerful, I still wouldn't be building it. 5 color good stuff piles are just boring. I get that. Finally,
Fair.
something that works with intruder alarm. We waited for so long. Yeah, they were waiting
We
to
did
sound the
it.
alarm. They were waiting to sound the
Intruder
alarm.
alarm.
Yeah, but it's true though. It's like I mean, I think that's a cool line of play though. I just landed on filter out. This is just purely coincidence. I think we're moving to you now.
Yep.
By you I mean blue. But Will, what do you
So,
think about filter out? Is it replacing
no,
your
filter
cyclonic
out is
rift? Is it?
filter out's insane. If I'm being completely honest. So, filter out. 1 blue for an instant. Return all non-creature, non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Holy crap. So this isn't as good at dealing with stacks boards like Cyclonic Rift, so you're still keeping Cyclonic Rift, but it bounces all of your mana rocks and bounces a lot of other weird things that your opponents have. So this hits the enemy Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora, bounces back all of your mana rocks so that you can storm off with Joyra, or bounces back your mana rocks so that you can combo with that ad nauseum to get more mana, because you just bounce all those mocks back to your hand and replay all of them to get more mana. So it's a board wipe and a ritual that is just really good when you're trying to storm off. I think this card is probably a new blue staple.
I would say the barrier of entry here is pretty low, like 3 CMC. I think the double blue is demanding, but if you're in blue, odds are likely all the fetch lands are going to get something that's tapping for blue. Like 100% without a doubt, it's not going to be difficult to hit the 2 blue. The fact that it's instant speed makes it obviously immediately more playable. Will was just referencing like storming off on a turn, which I see like when you hit this off the Adnos, like it's not a bad thing. You're like, oh, good. Like this just means more mana for me.
It's a dramatic reversal, basically.
Yeah, it's but then it also, pending the board state, like you were saying, if there's a lot of stacks pieces, like, and not by way of hate bear, this will be very good. Maybe not against a Winota list, I suppose, but this will work against all those artifacts-based stacks pieces. So I like it a lot.
It's also a nice tool if you want to play that Shimmer Zerd deck again, because you can bounce everything but your Shimmer Mirror, and then replay all of those rocks to keep comboing off.
Oh, so funny.
It's just a very nice tool.
That's so true. Yeah, I like it.
And then
I don't know.
Training Grounds is the next card. I'm glad that got reprinted.
It's a reprint, but yeah, and good art as well. I like it. I mean, okay. Again, I love art. There needs to be more art related videos, and I would like to produce them. I don't know. I feel like I make so many purchasing decisions in this game based off of art. Like I'll spend X amount dollars more if it means I get art from an artist I enjoy, or it just has an aesthetic I enjoy. But that was completely aside from the fact that we got a Training Grounds reprint. So there you go. I think Vesuvian Drifter is actually a good card though.
Yeah, Vesuvian Drifter is really cool because it's kind of a good way of cheating in a big creature in an awkward way, because you just look at Worldly Tutor your Protean Hulk or your Rozaketh to the top of your deck, and then you combo off.
Or Sylvan Tutor. You might even Sylvan Tutor in this
or
deck.
Or Imperial Seal. Yeah, or Vampiric Tutor.
yes. And if your creature is also a sorcery, you could Personal Tutor. But
you can also Enlighten Tutor that Nyx Bloom Ancient to the top.
Ooh, yes, Enlighten Tutor works. Yes. I mean, all these things work. But for 2 generic and a blue, we should probably read it off. 2/4 flying, Shapeshifter, I should say. Flying, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. At the beginning of each combat, you may reveal the top card of your library. Oh, you Imperial Sealed. If you reveal a creature card this way, Vesuvian Drifter becomes a copy of that card until end of turn, except it has flying. So obviously very, very good. And honestly, the Imperial Seal might be the cleanest way to get away with this, because you don't want to reveal that you just pulled a ridiculous combo card or something that's going to effectively win you the game here. It's cool. This is one of the better copy effects, because in a lot of instances where you get to copy the thing, it's like exile it and then it becomes the thing, except it's this instead. Where this is like, no, she could be the thing, and she's the thing with flying. So I like it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Also, someone brought up that Training Grounds has an alternate art in the set as well, so we can check that out since you love art so much.
I do. I like the so dramatic reversal that bounces your opponent's stacks pieces is going to be bonkers, 100%. I do want to look at the alt art here. Hold up. Oh yeah. So I wonder why they picked Eldraine for the bordering.
I'm not complaining. I do like the Eldraine art.
Yeah. I just didn't it originate in the Zendikar set?
Yes, right? I believe so.
Yeah, and don't they have their own expand? Because that's where they did the with the lands, right? Where they had the extended land art. Remember, and it had its own sort of bordering. I think it's like I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away, because there's this really cool ancient tomb art, I think, from there. Zendikar Expeditions. I've always wanted this one. It's just a little too expensive. So the art I own is of the original, but it's from the vault version. And again, this is this is relevant. Art is so important to this game for me, and this is my favorite one. I wish I could own this, but I just want to reference this because of the border for it. So it would have been cool, I guess, if we had. So I like this card because of that dead guy right there, but it would have been cool if we had this border here. Not that, you know, I don't like their choice, but yeah, this is sort of the was this set were the flavor borders originally from Eldraine?
This set, are you saying the
Well, I
border
guess
for Training Ground?
right. Well, I guess what
That
I'm
was
saying
Eldraine.
is
Yeah.
yeah, but like they've done flavor borders with the stuff like the masterpiece cards, right? Those were like one in every 6 boxes or whatever. But I feel like
Yes.
Eldraine was maybe the first set to introduce flavor borders in regular packs. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes, I know what you're saying of like the first thing to do the art style border things that we have instead of just a plain border. I think Eldraine was one of the first sets to do that. I can't remember what came first of Eldraine or the Zendikar set that had the box toppers.
right,
It was one or
right.
the other.
And yeah, and I don't mean like a future sight, like just different borders. I mean, there's a regular border and then there's like a flavor border. But I feel like it is a standard thing, not like, you know, you have to spend oodles of money to get some special foily thing. Like you can get these foil or non-foil. I feel like this was the first one. But no,
I
this is
believe
cool.
so.
This is really cool. I like that there's an alt border for it. Before we move on away from blue, not that there's much else to talk about in blue, please do. I love MTG art and no one talks about it. I started MTG off its art and art cards, and I collected from my friend who cracked packs and didn't care for them. It's funny because I started every TCG I've gotten into, I've actually honestly collected it for the art. And one of my favorite cards from Magic, that his name is Chrono. He's a creature. He's from Time Spiral. It's a really shitty white card. This is one of my favorite cards. I remember playing a foil version of this, and like for some reason I just adored Pete Venter's art. But yeah, I collected this game for the art, but this is one of the earliest cards I could remember really like cherishing and enjoying for its art. But I didn't play the game. I just solely collected it for its art. But I have over the years, and I've been in and out of the game, but I would always pick up like a box and just go through this stuff because I enjoyed it. I like that there are more art options now than there ever were before, and that really gets me excited. So it is important to me. It's funny. I don't know. It's weird I hate going off on tangents for this because I know a lot of people probably don't care, but yeah, art in this game is really important. Is there a card that like rings true to you, Will, that is like your favorite,
Just as like a random art thing.
where you like that you got and you're like, man, this is really cool. Like I could see this game being really cool. Where like Chrono Savant he's not a good card. Like skipping your next turn, this is horrible. But I just remember pulling it. I'm like, man, this is a cool game. I said, lo and behold, I didn't realize I got really shafted on that Time Spiral back.
So there's one card that I looked up that I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And I think that's when I started brewing really weird things, which was Demon Mail Hawberk.
Oh,
Something
okay.
like that. So if you just type in Demon Mail, one word, it should pop up.
Demon Mail.
So,
Yeah, this is a dope card.
so I really like this because I had a Ketra equipment stacks deck, God Eternal Ketra. And the idea of the deck was that you made a crap ton of zombies by just playing a bunch of small creatures that stacks people out. Then you beat people to death with 4/4 vigilance creatures. And this is a casual deck that I had. I'm like, oh, I need a sack outlet for some stuff, like for Skull Clamp and everything like that. There are no good sack outlets in white and nothing I can tutor. Then I found out, oh, Demon Mail Hawberk exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tutor this with Stoneforge Mystic and other white tutors for equipment. Sweet. And I just kind of used that and I made a bunch of interesting things. And then I started finding a bunch of weird white cards that worked really well with it, like Inheritance, to just abuse some sack effects and do cool things. And Demon Mail Hawberk was the first thing to make me go, oh, I can do cool things with this.
Yeah, dude, I love Demon Mail Homework. I mean, the art on this one really stands out for me. in
It's
particular.
metal. It is very
It's so
metal.
metal. But I remember here. I'm not gonna say anything. But I just watched Tengoku Daimakyo, and a lot of anime these days. Just a lot of horny storytellers. But this card, this
Hold up,
card.
I gotta wait because the
I just
stream's delayed
Oh
for
no,
me.
you're okay. So I just remember this card from my childhood too, and I'm like, man, this is a good game. Christopher Moyler. This is a good game. But so I'm gonna leave this separately. Maybe we could do a stream where we talk about, or just a video where we talk about just horny artist. Because I don't know. I don't feel like the bite is the highlight of this card, but it's there.
Oh
At any
yeah,
rate,
I can. Yeah, I see the card now just
but I,
popped up.
but I remember pulling this as a kid, and I'm like, should I be buying this?
Yeah,
Am I worshiping the devil now? Like, what's going on with
I'm
this
getting
game?
grounded.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking through my cards, and like, mom's like, "Hey, what'd you get?" I'm like, I can't show you. I can't show you this one." At any rate, let's do. I'll look over some comments before we move on.
So,
Blightsteel is. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
so I do want to point out that Swifter mentioned that the first alternate border stuff was Kaladesh, and yes, there's the masterpiece cards in Kaladesh that were
Right,
like the
but
first actual things that popped up. So it happened in Kaladesh. It started becoming popular in Eldraine. Eldraine is the one that popularized it.
right.
Kaladesh is the one that started it, I believe.
Right. Yes, I remember Eldraine. I remember Kaladesh obviously, and then they started doing masterpieces and further sets like the stuff from Amun Ket, right? So yeah, they were done. I guess what I was trying to say is it was Eldraine the first set that standardized having, not like super exclusive, specially foiled, one in every 3 boxes, masterpieces, right? Like because that it was part of a because technically Zendikar was like the masterpiece set. Like those land, I think they technically refer to those lands as masterpiece lands. Um, I was trying to say like which set standardized it. Yeah. At any rate, not that I'm trying to argue you here. It
Yeah.
is
So
true
Kaladesh started it, and then what set did we say?
Mhm.
Eldraine, Throne of Eldraine. That
Mhm.
standardized it.
And one last thought. My favorite art that I went out of my way to get was Phyrexian Obliterator, the OG one. And then Bai says, I started back in Kaladesh, and the first cards that make me decide this is such a cool game was some unplayable green energy card, and I just loved it. I think it was a Sabretooth.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's like one of the attacks get an energy. You can pay 2 energy to give it +2/+2, something like that.
The OG Phyrexian Obliterator. Yeah, that's a sick card. That is pretty metal, I gotta say. I made a waifu tribal deck once. It was terrible. It's funny. It says Paul, I want to do waifu tribal. You just gotta distract your opponent from the actual game plan. It was Architect of the Untamed. Architect of the Untamed. Okay. This is a fun tangent for me. I don't know if it's it's fun tangent for you, but Architect of the
Oh,
Untamed.
yep, it's the elf
You know,
feeding energy to a thing, it looks like.
right. I tried to find a way to make this broken, by the way, because there are lands matters lists where you can just have lands enter the battlefield an infinite number of times. So I was thinking like this would be really cool as an outlet. The only issue is those 6/6 beast artifact creature tokens. They don't have haste. So you're really like looking for it's like a solution looking for a problem, I guess, or a problem looking for a solution. One or the other. It doesn't do the trick. It's why
Yeah.
I didn't do anything with this, but I remember seeing this and thinking it was really cool as well. Because it's immediately tutorable, being a creature, elf, artificer, druid. All right, moving on to black cards, notable.
Yep.
From
So there's only 2, in my opinion, that are actually kind of worth looking at, and one of them because it's useful in one cEDH deck. So I'm gonna go with the weird one first. So it's a Markov Baron, and it's a madness card. So Anya, that's it. Falcon Wrath. There we go.
Yeah.
And then the actual interesting card is Iara Oathsworn. So 1 in the black for a 2/2 menace. When this deals combat damage to a player, if it has fewer than 4 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then if it has exactly 4 +1/+1 counters on it, tutor. Just vampiric tutor. Or not vampiric tutor, demonic tutor. So this card is very good in specific decks. Anything where your commander can give your stuff +1/+1 counters
Right.
kind of likes this, because you just get a 6/6 that's Menace and
Isn't
will
there
be
like
punching people to
isn't there
tutor.
like a Mardu Knight tribal deck that does that though? Am I mistaken? Wait, isn't
I
there?
think there's a Mardu Knight that does it, and there's also Refine or Rafine, however people prefer to pronounce that.
Okay.
He's really good. He has the what is it called? When you attack, you may draw a card, discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Connive,
Mm.
connive. So Rafine lets you connive X a creature, and you just connive 4, and then you put 4 counters on this, and then it does combat damage and tutors.
Then if it has exactly 4
It
counters,
has to be exactly
I
4.
know they couldn't have been 4 more. You
Yeah.
get to do well. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But what I guess what we're getting at is like, don't, if you can counter manipulate in your deck just as a general strategy, then this is effectively a demonic tutor on the field, which is kind of cool.
Yep. And I don't think this is going to see like any cEDH play. Maybe a couple people will try it out in weird decks, but it's not going to see any cEDH. In casual, it might be a bit of a menace for some play groups.
Hmm. Oh, let me go over some of these comments. I'm going to go from the bottom up. You got stopped while reading, but I was saying that Vesuvian Drifter during you're talking about Enlightened Tutor. Blightsteel is a creature too, and it now has flying. That's so true. So you can make her a Blightsteel Colossus with flying. Which is, so it's Flample, right? It'll be Flample with, well, poison. That's not bad. That's actually kind of good. So first rare I opened as a kid was Eben Praetor, and this one's pretty recognizable. You can keep letting us know the card that got you into Magic, or like when you knew you enjoyed Magic the Gathering. But this one from Fallen Empires, this is one weird card, my guy. It's just all over the place weird. Who's the Praetor, by the way? It's the guy behind the podium, right? We assume, or is it the bunny? Or is it the person that's like the merfolk that's about to be tossed into hell? Like there's so much going on in this card. It feels like it belongs in the wall, on a wall in a museum. Like it's just such a weird card. But yeah, I like
I
it. I think
remember I
this is a
remember
rare.
being able to F with people who are like, there are 5 Praetors, and I'm like, no, there are 7 Praetors. There's
Yeah,
one in every color, but 3 in black.
yeah,
And it's because there's Eben Praetor and something from Kamigawa that was also a Praetor.
right, right. And
It has Praetor in the name. It'd be easy to find. Hold up.
but we have
It
red.
was Sanguine Praetor. That's the other one.
I forget the Sanguine Praetor. This is the art that was spoiled for us, but I like this Nahiri art here. This Nahiri art's fantastic. So far as red notable cards are concerned, I don't know that Arnie is that good. If you have thoughts on Arnie, we can talk about Arnie.
Arnie is cool. Arnie is not fantastic. He's a weird sneak attack. And
Yeah,
I think that we can definitely do some shenanigans with him, but I don't think he's going to be breaking the game or breaking any records or anything. But he is pseudo cost reduction in red, which is kind of nice because you can cheat. You can play your Zealous Conscript and then
yeah.
move to combat and cheat in a Kiki Jiki or something like that, and then try to do something with that. But he's just an interesting thing. You can pay 2 to cheat in something that's cheaper than one of your things that's attacking. Then you can pay 2 more to cheat in another thing, then 2 more to cheat in another thing, then 2 more to cheat in another thing, and it just keeps going lower CMC as you do it. So you can just cheat in a big thing like Blightsteel Colossus and then play something for free or for 2, basically.
For two. Is this
It's
a
it's cool.
so there's the new Sarkon. Is this new Sarkon tech?
uh the new Sarkon, I don't wait, isn't the
He's
new
is it
Sarkon yeah,
yeah.
he's Izzet. We can go over him when we hit Izzet,
I mean,
but
for your dragon tribal list, which you're clearly going to be doing, put that rest on the bottom. Okay, well, there's a new. I wouldn't say it's like a searcher. You got a searcher for top 6, a
yeah,
scryer. We have Plarg and Nasari, who are also just
they're
okay.
interesting. Like they let you kind of mill people out because you exile each player's deck until you exile a non-land, and you don't put the lands back. They're just exiled. So you could do red mill if you wanted. I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe Okay, so there's a dumb concept that I love doing, which is high land count cEDH decks. This can do that. If you only run a handful of non-land cards, then you can. Oh no, never mind. I forgot about the other part of the effect. But you can go and guarantee that you hit something big. The problem is that your opponent can tell you you're not allowed to play the big scary thing that you built your deck around. But you can exile your entire deck if you want, or you could just slowly mill everyone else out.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not
Yeah.
good. It's fun, but it's not good.
But there was something there. This card we've commented on in the past.
Reckless handling,
Um,
so good.
Yeah, it's a tutor. It's another
Yep.
tutor, but it's a generic and a red sorcery. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle, then discard a card at random. If an artifact card was discarded this way, reckless handling deals 2 damage to each opponent. So technically, you could loop this for a win if you. Could you loop this for a win if you? Well, I mean, like this is a lot
Let's
of this is a
let's
lot
say
of work.
Jessica's will reiterate. Jessica's
Right.
will reiterate is a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go through a couple cards and then just get enough artifacts into your hand, then loop reckless handling and then try to win the game. If you have a way of shuffling cards back into your deck, even better.
Well, yeah, but Jessica's will exiles them, right? So
Yes. So we can also do reiterating like a dramatic reversal or something. Make infinite mana and then you can use reiterate to copy another spell infinite times like reckless handling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you
So
could. Well, I mean, you just need to do that, right? Like, search your library and put it into your hand, shuffle your library. If an artifact card was discarded this way, it deals 2 damage. So if we made a copy of this, say we do the reckless handling until we hit an artifact to discard. If we reiterate reckless handling, what happens?
you search again and discard a card if it's an artifact you deal to.
Well, what you just fail to find, right? You
Oh
can you
yes.
just
So you would fail to find and then you discard a card.
right, and then I'm saying like the one artifact is in your hand, right? So you
Yeah.
discard it. There's no good reiterate line of play here though. I don't think.
For well, I mean, like you can just cast, you can get infinite copies of Reckless Handling on the stack because it reiterate resolves putting a copy on the stack. In response to that copy, reiterate getting a copy on the stack. So you just have 2 billion copies of Reckless Handling. If you discard 20 artifacts or have a way of shuffling stuff back in,
Mm-hmm.
you win.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a way of dealing damage infinitely in certain setups.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be there for every deck, but it can give you one of those smooth play lines where you're not running any dead cards.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, in a lot of decks, sometimes entombing the artifact you just pulled is not a bad thing. Like the LED or whatever the artifact of choice is. Sometimes it's not bad that this acts as an entomb. I like it a lot. I think it's good. And I feel like there was a way to loop this just that wasn't as finicky to just damage out the board. And we can maybe find a finer line to
I mean, you can
discuss.
probably just do Underworld Breach for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you're going to do anyways. But yeah,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
could.
you're discarding cards. Why not?
Well, I mean, that's the thing though, right? So if you filled up your grave, okay, so you need X amount of artifacts. Let's just say you need 20 artifacts to find and discard. Like if you LED'd and then you start just searching through your library for artifacts, at minimum you would need to search up, if you're just recasting this for a win, you would need to search up 20 artifacts. That's if everyone still had 40 life. So realistically, like
Yeah.
depending on your artifact count, you could just tutor up an artifact, like your arcane signet, drop it, do 2 damage, tutor up your mana crypt, do 2 damage, whatever is left in your deck. It's kind of cool.
Yep, I do. I ran a Thrasios Dargo deck, and one of the win cons was using either Midnight Clock and a removal card, or Narset's Reversal and Time Twister.
Mm.
And the reason why is Midnight Clock says it's basically Time Twister as an artifact, but it triggers from the field and then exiles itself and shuffles your Graven Hand into your deck, and then you draw 7. If you remove it in response, it goes to the graveyard and then it shuffles itself back into the deck. So you can loop through that infinite times with Thrasios and just play your entire deck infinite times.
So,
So
so
if you
oh,
wanted, you can do Reckless Handling and just discard artifacts and loop through your deck infinite times with Reckless Handling and then win the game off of that.
and one suggestion was Elixir of Immortality.
That's another one. Yep. Just casually shuffle your graveyard and elixir back into your deck, gain 5 life. It's good. I think there's probably smoother lines if you're trying to do it for cEDH and casual. Probably
Mhm.
good enough.
So I think that's it for red. We can
Yes.
move on to green. I haven't looked over these ones. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. This doesn't seem horrible as removal for
Yeah, it's
creatures and
pay
planeswalkers.
pay a green, your commander double punches something. It's
Yeah,
pretty good. The lane line of immersion is funny if you're running Rograk.
yeah.
Just pay 4 and make it a dork that taps for 5, and you can only
Ooh.
use the 5 to cast spells. Nissa. Nissa is very good. It's a Lotus Cobra that also lets you get elves.
Yeah, or elementals.
Yeah.
I discussed this in a short recently. That's just going bananas on the channel. Check out the short. But basically, I suggested that this acts as like a tutor that you
Yeah.
have in your command zone. So cast her, and then whenever you play lands, you get the Lotus Cobra effect. Moreover, if this ability triggered the second, if this is, I'll just read it. Then, if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elfin or elemental. Put the card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, what you can do is make it so that the only elves and elementals in your deck are combo cards.
Yep. Because you can do Shia and you can do Quarian Ranger and then have fun. You win.
Right, right. They'll turn your yeah. But
And
for that you would
Nissa's
need
Nissa's ramping you up to a Shia. A Shia makes everything lands, which will trigger Nissa. So
right. It's not difficult to hit the mana either because you're obviously you're playing the cultivates and the harrows and the Kodama's reaches and the fetch lands and the whatever. You're putting a lot of lands into play. You're making mana. And then obviously make sure she's out before you start doing this because you want the Lotus Cobra effect, but again, you want that second time trigger. And then you pull into the creatures. So yeah, I think it's going to be really effective. I think it can be really effective. The fact that you can only do that aspect of this card once per turn, kind of, it's a little bit of a gamble. I feel like Ashaya is probably the first thing you want to pull into here. But even still, like, it works well. And there's just other good
yep.
elemental value creatures you can be playing in this list. Like, you don't have to go for like a pure combo route with this. And it does feel weird not to run dorks, but trust me, just Lotus Cobra Lands Matters is so much better. Like, if you just turn one Nissa off of a
Jeweled Lotus.
I mean, the dream is like Jeweled Lotus or like a Elvish Spirit Guide Mana Crypt, and then you crack your fetch that same turn, and you just there you go. Or
Yes,
and yeah,
Jeweled Lotus into Nissa, forest exploration, other forest into finding like Quarian Ranger or Ashaya or something.
Well, I gotta say, there's the number of lines here are plentiful,
Yeah.
and outside of just this sort of search effect that she has, you're in green. So like all of the creature combos in green, you have the tutors for. I think it's pretty solid, and honestly, this might be a good excuse for a Sylvan tutor. If you want to make sure that the elf or elemental you hit is the right one, you could just put it on top and put it in your hand as well. I mean, obviously, you're going to draw it anyways, but it's a good way to get it off the top if you're worried about, I don't know, any sort of top deck removal. But it's cool.
Yep.
I like it a lot. There's nothing else to say about Nissa. I think it's worth a brew. I don't know if it's something we're going to do on the channel, but I feel like I would want to refine what exactly we're going to run combo wise. Because you need like a Tamir Sabretooth for that line to work.
Yeah,
Anyway.
like it's something to look into. But I think that's it for green. So now we can get into multicolor and the two colorless cards. We'll group them together.
There's a lot here.
Yes.
So, oh god, yeah, I haven't seen all the new art, but I'll save that for later.
If you want, I can just do the quick run through of the like 8-ish cards that are kind of worth talking about to some extent, and then we
Sure.
can go into detail on anything that catches your eye.
Right, and anything that catches your eye. So let us know if there are any cards from the Aftermath that we glaze over, but we're going to go over the multicolored stuff now. But yeah.
Yep. So first we have Calyx. He's just a good Selesnya commander that says when an enchantment or him enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, or actually just on target creature. It doesn't even have to be your own. And whenever Calyx or an enchanted creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token copy of a non-legendary enchantment you control, and you can only do so once per turn. Cool
So,
grindy value and
right.
also +1/+1 counter stuff.
Right. So, and why that matters is like cards like this, or cards of similar effects. Whenever you put one or more counters on a creature you don't control, draw a card. Like this is really good in this list. And this is actually this is an outlet. Technically, if you go in the line I discussed in another short that didn't do as well because people don't like Selesny and Enchantress list, I suppose. Doesn't matter. What I suggested was you could use a Cloudstone Curio loop, just bouncing and generating mana and playing enchantments and effectively building up your army with +1/+1s. But if you don't have enough to do the damage to damage out the board, you could technically just make that Crom infinitely large and draw your deck.
Yep.
Right. So that's kind of a cool outlet. I didn't even think about that till just this moment. But yeah, it is relevant that you can put it on any creature.
Yeah, and you can get multiple copies of your stacks cards, or if you want, you can go full on Voltron, make Calyx just like a 10/10 with protection from every single color and double strike, and then when you do that, you get the one more counter on him and hit someone for 22 commander. The fact that you can just keep making more copies of your grindy value enchantments or your stacks enchantments is so annoying for people to have to deal with.
Right, and I feel like this card will be Flicker Ward. Flicker Ward would be really good in this list. So like you choose the color at first, right? You make a copy of it, right? And then you can flick it back, play it again, +1/+1, new color. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just like have multiple right? You can copy any non-legendary enchantment you control. Yeah.
Yep. So, and you just keep going.
I glazed over that just because I have to keep it under 60 seconds. I glazed over the second effect in the short video we produced, but I will state that the second half of this card is actually very relevant. Like making copies of it, and again, it doesn't matter the cost of the thing. You're just making a duplicate of whatever. It's really good. I feel like that at 3 CMC, a 2/2 body with these effects, I think he's actually really good.
Yep.
But next notable card you want to discuss?
Cosmic Rebirth. This is a really cool and really interesting card. A green and a white for an instant. Choose a permanent in your graveyard. If it costs 3 or less, put that card onto the battlefield. If it doesn't, put it to your hand. Gain 3 life. This is an instant speed reanimation for any permanent. This is really good with Hermit Druid. This is really good with Necropodes. This is really good with any deck that wants some kind of reanimate, because in the worst case scenario, someone's trying to win the game. In response, you Cosmic Rebirth that rule of law back into play, and they can't.
Yeah.
So this card is just really, really good. I don't know if a lot of people are going to play it because it's weird, and I totally get why people wouldn't want to play it, but it's still really good.
I think you're glossing over the most important part, which is you gain 3 life.
Yes, the almighty gain 3 life instead of cheating a permanent into play at instant speed.
How else will you win with your Felidar Sovereign?
I know, right?
Good. I think this is a good card. I think the cost is what's going to put people off, but if you really read into what value you're getting here, I mean, 3 life. But instant speed is really, it's like Black doesn't even have that many instant speed reanimate spells, and this is instant speed anything.
Yep.
I do think it's legit, and even if you do, like, you're gonna have a lot of mana on this turn, but even if you do the flashback Sevinne's Reclamation and then they're trying to target out one of your things, like your Sevinne's Rec is probably doing Underworld Breach and Lion's Eye Diamond, right? Well, you could be like, okay, well, the thing you're trying to hit, like instant speed, the Underworld Breach is going to come in outside of Sevinne's. It's happening.
I also just want to pitch the idea of instant speed reanimate your Underworld Breach, instant speed reanimate your Heuristic Study in response to someone casting Adnaz, instant speed reanimating stacks or anything like that. Like, this card is just kind of interaction that can also win you the game off of some kind of combo. It's fantastic.
I like it a lot. I agree with you.
Alrighty. Next thing to talk about, I figured I might as well bring this up just because there's potentially something, but probably not. But I'd feel bad if I didn't bring it up. Jolriel, the voice of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that.
Zulfir?
Zulfir, sure. Joriel,
Jor.
voice of Zulfir. At the beginning of combat on your turn, up to one target land becomes an XX green-blue bird with flying and haste, where X is the number of cards in your hand. It's still land. Whenever a land creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. We've gotten a lot of effects that turn lands into creatures. This might be a cool kind of commander to just beat people down and draw cards, because I could kind of see a Simic deck where you just hard ramp and then play Living Plane to turn all of your lands into creatures, and then you just go into extra turn after extra turn after extra turn, drawing like 10 cards a turn. So I feel like it could probably be a control deck that pivots into I try to win by doing extra turn stuff and punchy, because just remember, you're probably having a 7/7 beater that's drawing you a card every single turn.
But
So,
it's a flying, hasty
yep,
drawing beater.
yes.
It's like it's
So,
no lie. This Water Phoenix is legit. I have such high hopes for this Simic list, potential Simic list. I like it a lot. I agree with
yes.
you. Yeah.
Like there's good potential. You just need to hit one of your turn all of your lands into things and hard
Mhm.
ramp. I think this is probably a deck where you don't run the dorks and you run the land package, the
Right.
land ramp package,
Oh,
just because it's
100%.
gonna pivot into a win.
Yeah,
So
there's Genji of the Cedars. There's, so far as like like make this thing a man land. There are obviously man lands in these colors, right? You have the Fairy Conclave, you have the Treetop Village. Not and those come into play tapped, so they're a little bit slower. But there are plenty of ways to just convert like instant speed, sorcery speed. This turn in modal, you can make all your lands 3/3s with trample, or there's a bunch of things like that that just exist in Simic. Leverage them
yeah,
because right.
there's also a combo of mine that I love. Sorry, we were tripping over each other for a second. My
No,
bad.
it's
But
this is a cool card. I
yeah.
like.
Gaia's Cradle and Wake Root Elemental is a
Ugh.
combo that generates you infinite mana and turns all of your lands into 5/5s with haste, and untaps all of them infinitely. So
Right.
and
So,
it's fun.
so we have a Dylan says Joyrol also works well with Ashaya, turning all your guys into lands instead of all lands into guys, which is a fact, right? So you could just go the Ashaya route, and then whatever, like your, I don't know what this board would have technically, because I think we do by and large want to avoid dorks, but I think you will run some hate bears. And in Simic, like that's like a collector. You're definitely on collector roof. So your collector oof, and then your any of your like your pilferer, I suppose. We're gonna probably evaluate creature or like hate bear creatures in these colors more highly, and then Ashaya would be really dope. Obviously, playing into that.
Now, what if we pivoted the other direction and just made this combo deck where we just run up all the creature dorks and everything to try to get a high creature count, and then we just Green Sun Zenith into Ashaya to start drawing a bunch of cards and taking extra turns that way? So what if we built the deck more around Ashaya instead of around lands?
Are we gonna do the double Phoenix one week? Are we gonna
Maybe,
build?
maybe.
Are we gonna build a land Joyrol and a creature Joyrol? Is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
let's go.
Let's
I
go.
think there's a
Which
funny
Phoenix
thing, because I think
wins?
there's also a creature that's kind of like a living plane.
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
me see if I can find that Fathermucker. Um,
Right.
Keeping it
So
PG.
I think that Joyrol is really awesome. I want to see people brew this list. If you in the audience intend to brew Joyrol, please leave a link in the comments. I'm so curious to see what route you go. Obviously, Ashaya is one maybe key to this puzzle, but I do think like you could probably run both, but I do like the lands package because there's just a high redundancy of effects that turn your lands into creatures, although that could be volatile. Like someone could just fire Covenant away some of your lands, and that would suck. Although I don't think that you'd be the biggest threat if you're just trying to get draw in a really bizarre way. Like I still think that other players that just have generic draw in the command zone are probably going to be the bigger threats at most of those tables. But I'm so interested to see like these different packages. I will state with the amount of creature tutors, the Ashaya line might be more effective. I want to see them both though, and it could even be a hybrid.
I did find the other card. It is
What's
Ambush Commander. So that turns all of your forests into 1/1 elves, but they're still lands. So that's the other card. You just turn all of your forest into creatures, and you can easily tutor this up with any of the same things that you could tutor a Shia.
So wait, so your forests are green elves that are still lands. Are they double forest?
If you want to do it that way, sure, you can have a Shia and that. They're
Are you,
forests that are lands that are forests that are land, or they're forests that are creatures that are forests that are creatures that are
yo,
forests
and
that are creatures that are forests that are creatures.
you know what I realized is even better now?
Hmm.
Dryad Arbor.
Oh my god. It's a draw engine. You're totally
Yeah.
correct. That's funny.
That's it. I just fetched a draw engine. It's so good. It's so good. And you have to use this art. I'm sorry. By the way, if you play Dryad Arbor, you need to run this art.
I'll also say that turn one Green Sun Zenith for 0 into Dryad Arbor looking even sweeter.
Right, you're like, hey, you laugh, but you just wait. Next turn, she'll be drawing me cards. All right, moving on, moving on. Wait, that was way too long on Joy Ral.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna offhandedly mention that, but it's like, no, we went into it.
No, she's the coolest. She is the coolest
She
legendary
is.
from. I'm gonna just say, okay, here, let's go full screen. I think that from the aftermath, Jor-El, Voice of Zolfir, is probably the coolest legendary I've seen to date because she's playing with cards that have existed in Magic for such a long time in such a cool way. Like drawing cards is not cool. It's cool in that it's really effective at winning games. It's not cool in the sense that like turning your lands into creatures doesn't make them like +5/+5s or something. Like you can't go big swingy beats, but I think that the general strategy of Joy Rao could potentially play well into cEDH. I like that it's leveraging a lot of effects that just exist, and the deck, the composition of that 99 is going to be so unique. Like the legendaries like this get me excited about building commander list. That's all I have to say on
Yeah.
that. Okay.
So two quick things to go over because these are cool casual cards. Nahiri Forged in Fury, affinity, or sorry, 4 red white for 5/4 with affinity for equipment. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card. You may play that card this turn. You may cast equipment spells this way without paying their mana cost. So, living weapons are very fun here. General equipments are very fun here. You can easily play like a lot of cards per turn for free with Nahiri, and no one can stop you. I think that this is going to be a fun casual commander. I don't think this is going to be doing anything for competitive. It's just a cool Boros quote-unquote draw commander.
Yeah, but also if you decide to build it, make sure you run Sigarda's Aid, please.
Yes.
Make sure you play Sigarda's Aid, because not only will you be able to cast set equipment like right then and there because it has flash, that equipment will automatically attach to the creature that's attacking. So just profit. Just profit. Just make sure if you want to play Nahiri, run Sigarda's Aid. I keep hyping that up, but yeah, I don't know how much these are even going for right now. They're a little expensive. Whoops. A little over $10. Treat yourself.
I'm glad that I bought mine like way back when.
Like a foil version that cost me nothing, but yeah.
Yeah. Next is Nahiri's Resolve. So this is 3 red white for an enchantment, and it says creatures you control have +1/+0 and have haste. Honestly, you can throw all of that away to some extent. Also, I completely missed haste when I wrote that script for this card.
That's
oh my
actually,
gosh. Yeah, that's actually very relevant. But
send me. Well, okay.
yeah, we can fix that. We can fix that. But at the beginning of your end step, exile any number of non-token artifacts and or creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next upkeep or your next upkeep. This is just Conjurer's Closet on steroids, and you don't have the blockers, unfortunately, like Conjurer's Closet would give you. But you can flicker everything, literally everything on your entire board, and then return them, and then they're back with haste. Holy crap. That's just good and casual.
Right. It's a 5-drop, but I don't know, man. Like resetting your artifacts like that is pretty legit.
Yeah, and you just get a bunch of awesome ETB value, and also make it so people can't use sorcery removal on any of your stuff.
Well,
so,
let's look at it this way. It's really cruel if someone removes this, right? Like if you ramp out and you play this, and then someone removes it, like then your Grim Monolith just remains tapped or whatever. That kind of hurts. But
I mean, yeah.
You
but
would
they have to.
you would do that though, right? Like this feels like a lot of value.
Yes. It also they have to have an instant to remove it. In casual, people are more willing to run the sorcery removal, so I feel like this is probably going to last a turn in
Right.
almost every scenario.
You're probably not seeing Grim Monolith in casual either, but
Also
whatever.
true. But that Basalt Monolith, that's
Yeah.
fair game.
Mana Vaults. I had like a set of Mana Vaults. I think I sold recently, but I bought like tons of them because there was a time when they were like $5, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like this is such a
Yeah.
playable card, and I had
That's
a that was a good spec buy, I guess. Like obviously it's a good card. Anyway.
Yep. So those were just the fun casual cards that I kind of wanted to bring up. But now we can get back to a couple of the more competitive things because we have Narset, Enlightened Exile. Holy
Okay.
crap, this card. One, a blue, a red, and a white for a 3/4 legendary creature human monk. Creatures you control have prowess. That is enough to almost make this card playable by itself, but it keeps going. Whenever Narset Enlightened Exile attacks, exile target non-creature, non-land card with mana value less than or equal to Narset's power from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast that copy without paying its mana cost. This is just what's her name? Kess Dissident Mage. It's Kess, but you removed black for white, and she anthems your entire board to insanity. You can do any graveyard shenanigans you want. You can do any go wide shenanigans you want. You can do any storm shenanigans you want, and you will be killing people with your board of like 5 creatures because they're all 10/10s. Holy crap.
She seems okay.
Yeah, she said only okay.
Attacks Exile.
You can just cast stuff from graveyard by having her attack and give everything prowess, which is just gross. Because if you have power matter effects, which there's a lot of
Right.
red cards that have that and a couple blue, which we talked about a couple of them in Octavia,
Right.
she pumps them up to 11. And that is amazing.
So would you say this is better than Octavia?
No, I will never say anything is better than Octavia. You cast
Okay.
one card and make something an 8/8 in Octavia. Nothing's beating that. Also, Octavia has Ward 8.
Yeah.
That's hexproof. That's hexproof. You can't tell me that's not hexproof.
you read Ward 8, I read Hexproof.
Yeah, exactly. And Narset's a lot more removable. She's easier to kill, and Octavia's kind of 2 mana in
Okay.
most of the time. So I think Octavia's a lot better as an aggro piece, but Narset gives you way more colors, and Narset lets you cast stuff from graveyard. So I think Narset has the utility to make her better than Octavia, but Octavia is the better beats commander.
Yeah, so someone said from a graveyard and copy it. So what's really cool is it's any.
Oh my gosh.
It's exactly. So it's any graveyard. So taking removal or tutors from opponent's graveyard is pretty nice too. So like yeah, even just casually, just doing that, right, is pretty amazing.
Yep. It's so good.
But yeah, but it's
Narset
also
is just amazing.
right, yeah, and what's more relevant, like Dylan, when you do that, like when you take the DT from that, I don't know, that filthy Adnaz Underworld Breach player, when they go for the breach, they lose their DT on the back end of that breach turn. You know what I mean? So like you just took their value indefinitely, because of the exile. Yeah, it's really cool. I like it a lot.
Yep.
I don't brew for blue, so I couldn't get too excited, but it seems good. It seems okay.
To be fair for this, I think that you're probably brewing for like a bunch of weird things that aren't typically blue. You can, if you really want, you could make this a mill deck and then just use your opponent's graves. So that might be a little bit more up your alley.
Yeah, no, throw the Mesmeric Orb in there, please. Yeah. And Mesmeric Orb is just a good. I know people don't. It feels tedious. Because people always forget when they're untapping to like even keep count. They're like, oh shoot, I got to do that thing. But man, it's grossly effective at like getting rid of good cards, unless they have the breach in their hand, and then it's really awful. But even still, I don't really care.
Yeah.
What do you want to go to next?
I'll briefly go over Nashi just because Nashi, a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/4 legendary creature rat shaman with menace and ward 1. When Nashi attacks, exile up to 1 target legendary or rat card from your graveyard. Copy it. You may cast the copy. Fun little Moldrova-esque commander. 3 mana. You can just cast something from your graveyard every turn. Nothing of note. Just thought I'd bring it up for any casual players who want to build legendary tribal. It's cool.
You could do Patron of Dazumi for the extra flavor. Get
Yeah,
that rat offering in
that
there.
art though.
Get that rat
Yeah.
offering. I love dumb keywords, but I've always tried to make Patron of Nezumi work. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Whenever a opponent is put into a graveyard, opponent's graveyard, that player loses 1 life though. So you could do the mill strategy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, or do a Altar of the Brood, infinite ETBs, make them die to Patron and Nezumi.
You do have to pay the cost, sadly. So you do have to pay the 7 to get Patron in. That's the only reason why I'm not mentioning this as a hard read.
But you can cast it in instant speed by paying the Driven Sin mana cost between this and the Sacrifice Rat. Well, what I'm saying is set up the combo with Nashi and then Rat offer Nashi to the Patron of Nezumi. From hand.
Yeah, that works. That does work. That's kind of funny.
But it's instant speed too. So like once you have it,
it's instant speed, but it's also sorcery speed because you have to cast it when Nashi's attacking. So only on your turn.
Let me see it here. Oh yeah, let's make this work. Darn it, let's make this work. So when it attacks, then you bring back target legendary or rat card from a graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. I'm trying to think of like, is there infinite line in these colors with Altar of the Brood? Or like any sort of mill strategy?
Not really, because it's only on attack. So this is just a good casual commander. I just kind of wanted to bring that up, just because
I just want to keep the hope alive, okay? But don't forget Patron of Nezumi, okay? This is a flash creature, and in a rat tribal deck, it's a flash creature. Moving on.
So next, Niv Mizzet Supreme, also an interesting card just because of graveyard shenanigans. And I'm not sure if he's going to be cEDH viable, but I figured I'd bring him up.
This name just makes me think of Taco Bell. Do you want like a Baja Mountain Dew with this, sir? Would you like the taco on the side of your Niv Mizzet Supreme?
When I read the name, I think of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, where the guy says, "Taco Dial Supreme."
Oh, wait, I don't remember that scene. I remember the first movie vividly.
Yeah, if you look up just Taco Dial Supreme on YouTube at any point, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And like that is the voice I hear reading this out.
So anyway, sorry, 5/5 flying hexproof for monocolored. Each instant sorcery card in your graveyard that is exactly 2 colors has Jumpstart.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to be cEDH viable, but there are a lot of really good 2-color cards that you can use with this, and Jumpstart is not that bad of a cost. You are grinding a lot of value off Niv Mizzet.
Yeah.
So there's potential. I don't think there's anything crazy. Limb Jewel's Vault, there's what's it called? The Selesnya Creature Tutor. There's also a bunch of removal. It's good. It's not great, but it's good.
All right, so we're getting to the real meat and potatoes here, what everyone's been waiting for.
Yes, and this is potentially the new hotness card right here. Ob Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. This guy is terrifying. 2, a black and a red for a legendary creature demon with flying trample. He is 4 power, 3 toughness, and says whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ob Nixilis, the Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library until your next end step. You may play that card. He's Curiosity in the command zone for any of your ping effects. He's exactly what we wanted to do with Gearson, but you don't need to draw the Curiosity. He just has it built in.
Yeah, he's really good. He's honestly also in better colors for it because you have black. You just find the things you need, you bury them, you reanimate them, you just put them in your hand and cast them because they cost nothing.
Yep, and then you storm off very easily just because you can play that Jeweled Lotus, which is going to trigger like 2 of your ping effects, which is going to draw you 2 more cards, and then you can play that Ritual spell, which is going to trigger 3 of your things, which is going to draw you 3 cards, which is going to keep going. So he lets you play your entire deck very quickly.
Right. So for me, like value cards, things that do, and it's important to note, like if you do the 1 damage at any point, on turn, off turn, you get to put the counter on them and then see the card until your next end step. So why not run cards like Mana Barb or any effect that's going to ping off turn? And this is grossly effective because whenever someone taps a land for mana, it's going to happen. So you're basically you're getting a huge creature and you're getting potentially like interaction as well off the top. So like if they realize your guy's getting out of hand, Like they're either going to target the Mana Barbs or your Ob Nixilis, but you might have just drawn your Imp's Mischief or your Tybalt's Trickery or whatever, like your Pyroblast or Elemental Blast, all of the typical suspects just from playing these dumb little ping effects. He's very, very good. And then obviously, there are some combos here, but all will be one is sort of the big to do for this list. If you haven't seen this combo, I'm sure it's been discussed to death. But all will be one is 3 generic and double red enchantment. Whenever 1 or more counters are put on a permanent or player. Remember, Ob Nixilis is getting +1/+1 counters. All will be one will deal that much damage to target opponent. Creature an opponent controls or planeswalker an opponent controls. Yes, it's costly, but you're also in Rakdos. You have literally all of the best rituals. So getting to 5 mana is not difficult. And then all you need to do from there is use one of your many dumb pingers
and win.
to do the damage. And then, oh, hey, infinite loop entered. Whoopsies, I didn't mean to do that. And you win the game. Obviously, you're also exiling the top of your deck. That's not going to be problematic because you should be winning the game. But in that, sometimes people wait to stop the problem until it's a threat to them. So what you could do is just make sure as you're killing players off, I guess the only important thing to note here is to try to tackle the player that's not the control player, right? To tackle the aggro list, like they're not going to have any response to you. Get all the exile you need from killing them, and then you'll have all of the interaction you'll need for like this control deck. And like, okay, well now I'm gonna reality shift this thing, or I'm gonna do this. It's like, okay, well I'm just gonna play this card then that I just got.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. It's all really good.
And I will say a spec buy card that people may want to pick up because this is a very good value engine is Cataract Parasite, which is 1 black for 1/1 creature horror. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent like Ob Nixilis, this deals 1 damage to them. Kederekt. Kede. It's just a bunch of E's. Every vowel is an E. So okay. Kedere.
Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you have
So it's 1 black to play this, so you can get it out very early, then play your Ob Nixilis, and then you exile the top 3 cards and put 3 counters on Ob Nixilis, just in 1 rotation. Card's good.
Ooh. Anyways,
it's very good very early for the setup. It's such a good card. And then if you have a Wheel of Fortune, you have a lot of fun because then you exile the top 21 cards of your deck and make Ob Nixilis +21/+21 bigger.
I think that we should do like an official deck tech for this guy this week. I feel like this is definitely like a list worth talking about. I'll do something for him. And
because I already have my list that I brewed, just the general thing for to get something together, and we can probably do a quick rundown of the key cards for this as a short.
Yeah, it's so worth discussing. This is a really cool new Rakdos commander, 100%.
Yes. So much draw.
Oh yeah, it is. It's it's good. I mean, and also just one last note: there are cards that care. Like if you cast this thing from exile, do this. Like it's a little different than draw because it also plays with casting from exile. Right?
Yeah, like Prosper Tomebound.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, we'll talk about it.
We'll
talk about it later.
An entire stream just on Ob Nixilis. We're gonna move on.
Yeah. But any final cards?
There's only one other card that kind of caught my eye because it does do an interesting interaction that you wouldn't initially think of, but it's quite good. It's the new Samut Vizier of Noctune, or I believe that's how you would pronounce that.
Noctune.
Noctune.
Yeah.
But so 1, a red and a green for a 2/3 first strike vigilance haste. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, if that creature entered the battlefield this turn, draw a card. It's haste tribal, but there's another fun thing that isn't just haste tribal. So Samut does let you draw a good amount of cards. I don't know if Samut's going to be cEDH, but very fun and casual at least. There might be something for cEDH there. So if you have Crashing Drawbridge, whenever you play a creature, you draw a card. Cool. What I'm interested in is all of the things that say make a token and enters tapped and attacking. Because you can make a lot of tokens that do that and get a lot of draw. So that's the one thing I'm looking into that I'm like, that might do crazy things and get kind of crazy kind of fast because
Mhm.
you can easily draw like 5 cards a turn just off Samut and all you had to do was have a specific card in play.
A Rabble Master, a Legion War Boss,
Yep.
a Hanwar Garrison. So we did a live stream on Summit recently. I did pivot to incorporate this into a stream. I'll say the thing that was the most effective was
I also did
this.
not see the stream, so I'm
You're good.
happy to hear this. I'd like to get your perspective on it now.
It's this was grossly effective because it's on damage. So creatures you control that enter the battlefield
Hold
this turn
on.
have double strike. So when you get to do the double strike, you get to draw the cards twice. So every time we got Death Leaper out, the deck was way more effective. Just to report on this whole strategy, I could state that there's enough to make it work, and it's not asking too much of the player. But if you don't have the token generator in your starting hand, then don't play the hand. Like whatever you're using that's going to generate the hasty goblin, and it could be tapped or attacking, or make sure you look up the text when you're building your own version of this list. It should say create a token, and it's a whatever. It gains haste this turn. Like also look up that because there are those variations in a flavor when it comes to creatures entering and being able to attack. But most importantly to me, just incorporate Death Leaper because the double strike is going to really help get your deck up to speed with the rest of the table. Like you want the draw because cheating
That
out
is a
Samud.
sick include.
Yeah, no, it's dope, right? So creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn, like this will incorporate into any strategy. So whether you're playing a character that has dash, or you're playing again like the strategy that involves tokens tapped and attacking, they all have double strike. So even in this list, like Ragavan might even be better for the dash because you want to get the draw every single turn. So I might suggest in this list only that don't hard cast your Ragavan turn one. Save it to dash out, get the draw, get the value, and you're doubling down on it. So it's all good, especially if you have Death Leaper out. But this is probably the biggest card for those, and thanks to Jens for pointing this one out because I definitely missed it. Assemble the Legion with Samut. Never mind, doesn't have white. Yeah, that's the other Samut. Sorry. But yeah, I think that about covers it. Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
that
Any
covers
other?
this set. So we covered all the spoilers from yesterday, and we covered the March of the Machine spoilers, or the
Look at
March of the
that.
Machines aftermath spoilers. My
Look at
bad.
that. So gang, if you found this video useful or insightful, feel free to send it along to your pals so they know what to look for. I think we did a pretty thorough job of covering these 50 cards as well as all the recent spoils. Yeah, this was fun. Expect more art discussions in the future. I feel like there should be a space for that on the interwebs, and it doesn't only need to be Reddit. It'd be fun to talk more about some of our favorite art. I'm passionate about it. I don't know about you, Will, but it'd be fun to cover it to some degree. And I know at least some of our audience seems to be interested as well. But I'm going to close out our poll here. So the list we were building Wednesday is not Onyxia. It will be Zuladoc. Zuladoc? It's gonna be
I say Zuladoc. He's the other doc, the other doc side.
right, except we can't run the better dock side. We can't
Yeah.
run the good dock side. We'll get to run Zilladoc though. So get ready for that. Again, I'm Patrick Marlette, your local game guy. I had a very fun time on this podcast. Stay tuned for the next Untapped. I should be joined by Will, and we'll be discussing the topics I mentioned off the bat. Will, any closing
Yeah.
thoughts?
Uh, I hope that you enjoyed the stream and have a great have a great rest of your weekend.
Stay frosty.